Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we take a look at the astrological energies from February 26th until March 5th, where over this next week, we do have all planets direct until Saturday, March 1st, when we will have Venus stationing retrograde at 10 degrees 50 minutes in Aries. We now have Mars direct, yet moving very slowly, gaining strength after his extended retrograde journey and still hanging out at 17 degrees of Cancer. We are officially in Pisces season, where we have a lineup of planets in Pisces, including the Sun, which is traveling from 8 degrees to 15 degrees of Pisces this week, and will be interacting with Jupiter at 12 degrees of Gemini. We will discuss that in today's show. And the main energy as we move into March is that we have a very active Mercury. As Mercury will move through the last decan of Pisces and enter Aries on March 3rd. Mercury is now in his retrograde shadow territory as of March 1st as well. So we have an interesting mix of energies this week, and we're going to discuss them and break it down a little bit more so you have a heads up on what the cosmic weather is. Astrology is a tool for us to access and use to better navigate our daily lives. It assists us in understanding the timing, the trends, what to expect more, because the cosmic weather is telling us what is in the air. Similar to consulting a meteorologist or your weather app before going outside, astrology guides us in working with the conditions and being prepared for the potentials and possibilities as they show up. Astrology can be wildly validating and affirming of what you're feeling and experiencing. And I believe that it's also one of the ways that demonstrates how we are made of cosmic codes, how we are embedded with stardust and atoms from the universe that connect our individual frequencies to the solar system and to all of the cosmic influences that are swirling and moving about us all the time. Astrology can guide you to more of your soul's wisdom, your deep, beautiful, eternal essence, and reveal more about your empowered choices, actions, and purpose in this life. So when we look at these weekly energies, it gives you a heads up on how to be empowered in your timing and decision making, as well as understanding where you're supported and where things are coming through that have been divinely guided to you. You know, we can look for that divine timing to show up in big areas of our lives, but divine timing is always working. It's always in play and connected to you. And when we start to notice it on a smaller level, we can really tap into the miracles of timing, manifestations, personal developments. We start to see the wonder beyond just the everyday or the mundane. And this is a week to pay attention to the everyday in your life. And that's because of the many aspects that Mercury is making as we move into March. Now, I want to pull in some of the mythology and understanding around Mercury, because we tend to use the same keywords and the same understandings when we're discussing Mercury. Yes, Mercury rules communications, your plans and schedule, what you do in a day, short-term travel, your devices, your transportation methods, whether those would be vehicles, the subway, bicycles, scooters, all modes of transportation that gets us from here to there on a regular basis. But why is that? Why do we associate Mercury with these areas of life? Well, going back into Greek mythology is where the archetypal energy of Mercury began, in the energy of Hermes. Hermes was the messenger of the gods, the one who was known to move between worlds deliver messages, and with his winged sandals could move quickly and freely. He wasn't bound down to any one place and was known for his speed, agility, and ongoing movement. Hermes had the ability, because of his fast movements, to move between the mortal world and the divine world. Essentially, a soul guide, or the energy of a divine messenger who could travel between the realms as needed and as requested. Hermes carried a caduceus, which has the two snakes interwoven together, and those two snakes were meant to represent negotiations, conversations, as well as his ability to move between these two worlds, these two planes of existence, and be the communicator between them. The caduceus is a staff of power, resolution, negotiation, and how two sides can work together. Now, we often associate this caduceus with a medical symbol now, but it originated with Hermes in Greek mythology and movements between these different experiences, these different planes of existence. Then along came the Romans, and the Romans are the ones who did their own rebrand here and named their equivalent of Hermes Mercury. So Hermes and Mercury represent the same archetypal influences, and Mercury was also known as the messenger who could travel into the underworld as well as bring important information to the ruling class and to people. Mercury is associated not only with these communications, but with commerce, science, medical studies, and investigations. Mercury, being a very intellectual energy, is about what we study, think about, and focus on, the curiosity of the mind, and what comes about as we apply this energy regularly and in our everyday lives. Mercury is also known for having a caduceus. Another understanding of the caduceus is that it's also a protector of travelers. To travel with this wand or this staff allowed for more peaceful passage, demonstrating that there was a focus on resolving any issues, fights, or troubles, and it could even mean that one was being sent from the gods, that they were a godly messenger and connected to a higher power. Because of Mercury's fast movement and ability to move quickly across multiple realms, spaces, worlds, and landscapes, Mercury is also associated with trade and commerce, how goods or products get from one location to another, what is a fair business deal, what terms need to be negotiated or settled. Essentially, Mercury was the first archetype of those terms and conditions of what am I signing here on this contract? Let me ensure that it's for my best good and that it's going to support what I want and what I seek. If you're familiar with the story of Persephone and how she was kidnapped by Hades, also known as Pluto, and brought down into the underworld where she resided for half of the year, it was only Mercury who could reach her and receive her messages as well as take her messages to her mother, Ceres. Mercury's ability to move swiftly and quickly, of course, is one of his strengths. It keeps him agile and nimble as he moves between worlds. But this is why Mercury is also known for trickery, being the trickster, being unpredictable, inconsistent, and unpredictable. If you were to receive a message from the underworld, how do you know that it is an accurate message and that Mercury hasn't changed the meaning in some way? If you were to receive a message from the gods, how could you verify that everything you are receiving from one source is true and authentic? So the Mercury energy can show up with various intentions, which is wise to have in your awareness. So in addition to communication, transportation, your calendar, and what you have going on in your everyday life, Mercury is also reminding us of our ability to connect between realms, to listen to not only your human self and what your brain is actively processing, but to go into the higher realms of the gods, of your soul, of what is not in physical form, and listen to those parts of your consciousness as well. And I feel this is especially strong as Mercury moves through Pisces until March 3rd, when Mercury enters Aries at 5:04 a.m. Eastern Time. As Mercury continues through Pisces, though, there is more of a connection to these otherworldly messages and a sense of what you're meant to hear, that perhaps in your own busyness, in your own day-to-day life and everything that is grabbing at your energy, wanting your attention, or perhaps intruding on your mind, Mercury in Pisces is about going higher to hear what is essential for you to know right now so that you can carry it forward and implement it in your life in some capacity. On February 27th, we have Mercury in Pisces sextiling Uranus and Taurus at 23 degrees. And this can be a welcomed insight about what is shifting and changing in your life that Uranus and Taurus has been requiring perhaps a chaotic, uncertain change around. And Mercury in Pisces might see the bigger picture or understand why these shifts need to happen, why you need to break free from any limitations or boundaries that were part of a comfort zone. But now is the time to detach and just trust that it's okay for this change to occur. So that occurs on February 27th, the same day as the Pisces New Moon, which is at 9 degrees 41 minutes of Pisces. This new moon in your chart is where the universe is asking you to quietly connect with the answers you're holding, feeling, and sensing that can provide understanding of what you are closing out with the strong Pisces influence right now. So the new moon is happening at 9 degrees 41 minutes of Pisces. Yet we have a big focus of Pisces planets and points in the last decan of Pisces. We have Saturn, Mercury, the North Node, and Neptune all moving through final territory of Pisces, where you can feel and know that closures are happening. The endings are real. There's a part of your journey that you are closing out and moving away from. And even if you don't fully see it yet, you're really sensing the transition and understanding it. This new moon, I believe, is supporting us in feeling emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically strong to move through these Pisces endings. And I feel that this new moon is giving us that deeper internal strength and soul clarity to trust that it's okay to let go. It's okay to move on. It's okay to be complete. In fact, it's necessary. It's necessary when you have these outer planets, especially Saturn and Neptune, signaling that there's an ending here to your physical reality in some form, which is Saturn, and that Neptune in Pisces is closing out a grand cycle here in the cosmos on our planet that will unfold over the next year. So do keep in mind that with Saturn and Neptune, they will return to Pisces later this year, later in 2025. So these closures are actually happening over the course of the next 12 months or so, until each of them enters Aries and stays in Aries in early 2026. So this could be a Pisces new moon that gives you a deeper sense of trust. I can trust this part of my journey. I can trust that what I'm transitioning through and moving through is meant to be experienced as an ending and letting go. Pisces also brings up our choices. Do I choose to let this go, or do I choose to keep this in my energy? And at what cost? What does that mean if I keep something in my energy? Does that mean I'm still going to be energetically connected to it in the next cycle? Does that mean I'm still moving through karma with it? Does that mean it's something that I'm afraid to let go of? What does it mean to not let go of something? And that could be important to consider, because with a strong Pisces influence here, there's a reason why this is an essential part of a cycle. It's so that we can make way for the new starts and the new energies that are a better fit for who we are now, so that we can allow and welcome the new starts that are divinely timed. And yet we have free will, we have personal sovereignty, we have parts of ourselves that might want to continue to travel with something for whatever it is to us, whatever it represents. Now, keep in mind that Pisces consciousness relates to an energetic turnover based on what we've learned, healed, mastered, obtained. And so this is a graduation energy. And to see it through that lens feels more celebratory and more self-honoring than perhaps seeing it or feeling only that there is endings or loss. But Pisces season is going to continue to highlight these themes. And I feel that the Pisces New Moon on February 27th, which is exact at 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time, is an invitation from the universe to trust what's complete for you, to trust what you're feeling, and to hear more of those often soft Piscean nudges to be beautiful sources of validation, love, and comfort. And this energy closes out February. Then we start March with a Venus retrograde on Saturday, March 1st at 7:36 p.m. Eastern Time, where Venus stations retrograde at 10 degrees 50 minutes of Aries. This is a standstill. This is where Venus is sitting with herself. She's sitting with who she is, Aries, her self-identity, how she knows herself. She's sitting with her talents, her gifts, her divine feminine energy, her creation powers, her receptivity and magnetism. She's sitting with all these components of herself, and she's looking at, what do I want to improve? This Venus retrograde can beautifully support self-improvement, what you want to do differently, what you want to approach in a new way, what matters to you now that you want to ensure is a part of your energy field. Venus is embarking on a journey of greater intentionality and personal consciousness. So as she stations retrograde here on March 1st, really listen to her. Really listen to what is coming through for you, or what is showing up for you along the lines of self-improvement, self-empowerment, independence, what you want to do on your own or what you're ready to try in a new way. And to hear that these are parts of yourself that you're ready to give birth to or recreate in a whole new way. So the Venus retrograde begins, and it will last until April 12th, possibly April 13th, depending on your location. And this is where Venus will also return into the watery depths of Pisces and free herself from any constraints or anything she's outgrown that she doesn't want in the new cycle. So this is a period to have a heads up on where you're not feeling it, on where you're not feeling like something resonates with you. You're just like, nah, no thanks. That's not me anymore. I'm not interested. That doesn't resonate. Like you go through your closet and you're like, this is ugly. This is horrible. This doesn't fit. And so the first part of a Venus stationing retrograde is understanding what to clear out, what is no longer necessary, filling, empowering, but to ensure that you're not allowing it to affect your self-worth or your self-value, meaning you're still practicing, I accept myself, I love myself for who I am, where I'm at right now, and this is not what I want. This doesn't work. This has no room in my closet. So this could be an interesting experiment as well in what no longer supports your self-love frequency. Now on Monday, I'll be doing a podcast episode on this Venus retrograde. We're going to discuss it even more, and we're going to look at the journey that she's in here, especially because she's going to have connections with Pluto, Neptune, the North Node, and a Venus star point with the Sun that will happen in Aries season when Venus retrograde is conjunct the Sun at 2 degrees of Aries. This is a new Venus inferior conjunction. So we'll talk about that more on Monday's podcast. But just a heads up, as we approach the weekend, just stay aware of what you don't like, what you don't want, what you don't love, and know that that's right on time here. Venus is giving you messages. Venus is giving you insights into what is going to be a better fit, a better energetic connection, and that the upgrades are going to happen because of this review process. It's also important to stay aware of your finances during Venus retrograde. Stay aware of money that goes out, what is not worth the cost or the investment. Be aware of your personal finances. Here in the US, we are in the phase of year where we prepare taxes and figure out what those are for the previous calendar year. This Venus retrograde does coincide with tax prep season. Hey, perhaps you'll find more deductibles, more credit, more ways of saving on your taxes, but that's just one practical way of looking at this Venus retrograde. It also relates to relationships, love, partnerships, connections, friendships. This can be a time in Aries, where there's things you realize you're happy they ended, they're not related to you, they're not connected to you, they're not good for you, and you're gaining clarity or an understanding of what is. Because Venus is in the very personal energy of Aries and then travels back to Pisces, there's more internal reworkings here where you could be going through a bigger decision-making or clarity process around the people in your life, friendships, partners, spouses, dates, lovers, all of that changes around here during a Venus retrograde. For some people, they experience the return of a previous connection or partner. And the energy of this cycle is to look and see what that alignment is at this time in your life and to be really clear on what you need and want without compromising. It's also not the best energy for new starts since she is retrograding back through Aries, which is about beginnings. Any of those beginnings could be false starts. They might not go anywhere. They could also be resets in a connection, but those resets will actually gain more strength later in April and May. So March begins with this Venus stationing retrograde. Then on Sunday, March 2nd, the Sun in Pisces squares Jupiter in Gemini at 12 degrees. Jupiter has been moving quite slowly throughout February, ever since Jupiter stationed direct back on February 3rd and 4th. So this is a slow moving, thoughtful Jupiter in Gemini, being more aware of what needs to be said or not said, being clearer in his communication style, and perhaps even thinking it through a little bit more. As the Sun squares Jupiter, there can be excitement around a big idea as well as overwhelm, where you're trying to figure out, how is this going to work? I have a great idea. I have a great concept. There's a big plan I want to make. I have a vision I want to follow. This can be talking a big talk. Exaggeration and amplification occurs when the Sun in Pisces squares Jupiter in Gemini, and also occurring on the same day, Mercury in Pisces is conjunct Neptune and the North Node in Pisces at 28 degrees. So here we have an amplified dance between the need for details and specifics, and then this strong Pisces energy conjunct Neptune and the North Node, which means the ideas, the information, it's coming from the other realms. This is where Mercury is now connected to the gods. He's in the realms of immortals, and he's collecting a message that you're meant to receive around next steps, a problem, an idea. It comes from a very unexpected place. This could be a subtle message. It could also be very intuitive and out of the blue. Keep in mind that dream messages are extra strong this weekend. The messages in your dreams that are giving you understandings or providing some communication is also coming through. Now, when we have this strong Pisces energy, you could also just be searching for escapism. You could be tired of thinking about something. You could be exhausted, mentally exhausted, and just need a break and want to disappear into the Piscean realms for some fun, joy, and escapism. On a more practical level, you want to confirm details, verify specifics this weekend. You want to ensure you have all your duckies in a row, because with the Pisces energy, those duckies are flying away. Those duckies are traveling to other places. They do not want to be in a row, and it's easy to miss something, to get the information wrong, to get the time wrong. So if you have anything important happening this weekend and into early next week, just make sure you're double checking the basic details and not missing anything essential. Then on Monday, March 3rd, Mercury enters Aries at 4:04 a.m. Eastern Time. So we start the work week with more energy ready to go, as here we have Mercury the messenger ready to set off. He is wearing his winged shoes. He is inspired, ready to go, ready to get there, and could even be speaking too quickly, speaking faster than he thinks. But know that as Mercury moves into Aries, there is a sense of new possibilities, new plans, and more that you want to say that perhaps you've been holding back. Now, Mercury is in his retrograde shadow territory. Mercury doesn't station retrograde until March 15th at 9 degrees 35 minutes of Aries. But he's in the territory in your chart that he's going to be covering a total of 3 times. So it will be wise to slow down, to not rush, to not force, to not be too impulsive, because Mercury is going to be reprioritizing and reworking this area of your chart. Also, Mercury in Aries, if you say something too quickly or if you move too fast, there can be regret. So you don't want regret here in these early degrees of Aries. So the more that you can slow down and be more considerate, intentional, and conscious, it will pay off, even if it feels like you're holding back or you're biting your tongue. It is wise to do so, because remember, Venus is also retrograde here in Aries, and this is about tempering that excitement and that initiation, holding back on going full throttle, and understanding that that is simply part of honoring what the retrogrades are going to rework in this area of your chart anyways. Now, right after Mercury enters Aries, he will have a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius on March 5th. The sextile is at 2 degrees 52 minutes of Aquarius, where Pluto is now in new territory, moving ahead here in the sign of Aquarius, and Mercury gets a powerful insight. This is where Mercury, the messenger, who has the ability to travel into the underworld and connect with Pluto, right? When he went into the underworld after Persephone was kidnapped by Hades, Mercury goes into the truth of something. There is a truth revelation coming up, something you're sensing or feeling for the first time, because Pluto is in new territory in Aquarius, Mercury is in Aries. New truthful information, revelations, insights, secrets, something comes to the surface that you're meant to know, see, and understand. And because of the upcoming retrograde, Mercury is going to have 2 more sextiles to Pluto in Aquarius. This is the start of an ongoing conversation around a truthful understanding that Pluto in Aquarius is directing you to see the bigger picture, to see more than what you previously envisioned, and to sit with it without doing much. And you know Mercury doesn't want to do that. Mercury wants to keep moving with this information. He gets something juicy or exciting. He wants to move with it, do something with it. But the upcoming retrograde, says not so fast, Mr. Speedy Feets. Slow your roll, because what you are learning and understanding is going to take time to integrate, work with, and even think it through. So the middle of the week, let's say even March 4th, 5th, and 6th, as Mercury approaches and engages in conversation with Pluto in Aquarius, he receives important communications, but then he's learning not to act or speak on it right away. Again, you don't want regret. And because Mercury in Aries moves too fast at times, there can be regret, whether that is something you write, say, or do that you realize, okay, no, I should have held off and thought this through a little bit more. This is my heads up to think it through more. Be comfortable internalizing and know that that is the cosmic assignment. Mercury and Venus are on big journeys in March and into April. So this is an important week to be aware of what is coming up for you in the late degrees of Pisces and early degrees of Aries house or houses in your natal chart. We could be having new understandings in what is changing in our lives through Venus and Mercury themes, including what are the new innovations, concepts, and plans that can be unfolding at this time, as well as in years to come. I was in the library with my son. Well, a few times we've been in the library, and every time I go in there, it's just so quiet. There just aren't people in the library like there used to be. I remember libraries being more bustling and active and people hanging out there after school and a lot going on the weekends. But every time we're there, it's just quieter. There aren't people coming and going. Of course, this is just one library in the world, but I've noticed that over the past few years. And I was in the library just thinking, wow, what if these beautiful places of books, collections, resources, what if this is gone in 5 years? What if this is shut down because of everything moving on to digital platforms? And, if people aren't using these resources, how much funding do they continue to put into these local resources and community spaces? So that's been something on my mind, is just noticing what here in my local community is shifting in its purpose and in its needs. And then that can bring in the bigger topic of these smart cities and things that are being implemented that we don't all know about. They're not being fully disclosed or revealed. There's already numerous smart cities in the world with cameras, digital surveillance, a lot of Wi-Fi connectivity, and 5G influences. There isn't one way that they determine what a smart city is defined by. There's just these various technologies and services that are implemented to make improvements, right? And so they will propose that to citizens under the guise of improving transportation and safety, utilities, connectivity. But there's no limits on these either. And it's such a slippery slope with a lot of big vulnerabilities around cyber attacks, technology outages or failures, violation of privacy, and the harmful effects on the environment. Just to name a few problems off the top of my head here. But this is also the realms of Mercury. Mercurial themes rule what we are developing in our communities. Communications, transportation, technology, right? It all makes sense. And there's already many smart cities in the world that have been deemed successful. Singapore, Zurich, Seoul, South Korea, Shanghai. And have you heard of this one territory in Saudi Arabia called the Line? The Line in Saudi Arabia, and they're proposing it as this revolutionary way to experience a city, a new form of urban living that allows people to be in better connection with nature. And there's no roads, no cars, no streets. It's already in production. It was started back in 2021, and it's supposed to be over 100 miles long. And it's this linear city is the concept. Again, it's called the Line in Saudi Arabia. Some of the pictures I've seen, I feel like it just looks like a prison in the desert. It looks weird. Just my opinion. But keep in mind that as we discuss these urban development projects and plans, nothing is in concrete. Nothing has to be 100% predetermined. And it's up to us to stay in control of what we want in our communities, what we want our local environments to look like, how we want them to function, and to be aware of where to push back, where to vote no, where to stand up and speak out and say what you want or what you don't want. Especially, I'm just going back to this library example. I don't want to lose libraries. So that's on my radar. See, these are the kinds of things that we need to stay conscious and aware of, because we can make a difference collectively, but it's up to us to be empowered to do so. And so not only does this relate to this Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde here, but of course it's going to gain more prominence later this year when Uranus goes into Gemini, which occurs on July 7th. So it's important to have in your awareness, in your mercurial energy, what you enjoy, like, and use on a daily basis that you want to maintain. You don't want everything digitally connected or every corner to be under surveillance. Of course, some cities are already like that, but it's also important to speak up, to not give our power away, to stay intentional with what we want in our daily worlds that have meaning and use to us. Nothing is set in stone. We can influence the trajectory of developments when we're aware of how to be empowered and use our influence responsibly. So, wishing you a beautiful Pisces new moon on February 27th. Please check out my video on YouTube where I go through the chart for this Pisces new moon, as well as some other video releases I have for you discussing more about the astrology of this week. If you are in my 2025 Soul Growth Astrology program, please remember to sign in and check out the sections that discuss Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde, as well as the eclipses, because yes, we're entering eclipse season here in March with 2 eclipses, one at 24 degrees of Virgo on March 13th and 14th, and the second one on March 29th at 9 degrees of Aries. If you would like to join the Soul Growth program, you can do so, and please use coupon code 2025. You will save $11 on the full program that's designed for you to use throughout the year to be an ongoing reference point of understanding for what is happening in your chart specifically. This is how you become a better interpreter of astrological energies in your life. And of course, you then fully own more of what you can choose and decide in these big cycles. I will put the link to this program below this podcast. Please come over and join us. You're going to get a ton of information, including more about Uranus in Gemini, Neptune in Aries, Saturn in Aries, Jupiter in Cancer, and basically all the big astrology of this year. Wishing you a beautiful start to March and Venus retrograde season, and I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode. Take good care, and I'll see you back here soon.